Hello, hello. Welcome back. Um, Today I'll be doing just a bit of a shorter one, an hour and a half. Gonna be building more of Rentijoy, and what I left off on was um, the lease builder, which is right here. So we restyled it, made it look better, made some decisions on what information we're going to collect. And one of the things we started to scaffold out was the tenants piece. But this is probably more important for when you're creating a brand new blank lease rather than like creating a lease from an application, which is you access. I think this one has one. Nope, none of these have it. Nope. Sorry. Yeah, here we go. So when you approve an application here, when you create a lease there, this isn't working for some reason. I didn't actually test this yet. I have lease users on the lease, so interesting. But this is something that we'll probably fix up today. And then in terms of creating like a blank lease, it's not currently possible, so we might have to add that, and that's where that builder will come into play. And then in terms of like how that's going to work is I think there'll be a dialogue when you click the button. It'll ask you to select a property, and then from there it'll ask you to basically, it'll take you to the builder, and then that's where you can kind of select who you're going to create that lease for. I don't know how far we're going to get with that, but however, I will get the application flow working where we actually create tenants, because I do want to finish that kind of component in the builder. And so yeah, so let's go ahead and just go here. I just had one that had accounts and I lost it already. There we go. So if I go ahead and create a lease here, this will fail because there is it's trying to create a user. And then so if we go to the application controller, landlord, see where that logic is. So we're getting the application users and we're mapping just the user. I think there's a pluck that might be better to use. And then for each user, we're creating a new lease users, and this is where it doesn't know what that is. Because it's trying to get this. So I think what I'll do is I'll just add a debugger here. And similarly, we need to do this. Otherwise, we won't be able to run that debugger, fortunately. I'll go ahead and prove it. And then, oh, that's weird. Now we get a SQL error. Oh. Users? Probably where this is coming from. All right, let's bring back the map then for now. So I do users. We should just see the one user, which we do. S3. So that's fine. And then we see lease is nil, because we're creating a new lease here. Wait, is all this code in here? Oh, that's why. So all the code is in here. It doesn't have context actually to what this is. So what I actually meant to do was pull this out into its own thing here. And that should be a lot better. So now if we do this, a known attribute created by. No. You don't need that. I see the user. Okay. Here we go. All right. So we should see insert into leases, lease users as well. That is a the ID of this lease is 3, so we can go ahead and just do so now if we do users, we can see there's test 3, and then the lease users is just the join table there. Let's skip that song because it's a bit, I don't really like lyrics in my music when I'm coding. Okay. So now we have lease users being built. That's where we kind of need to now make the decision of whether we're going to do the lease tenant, lease user actions within here, or if it's going to be a controller. I think we'll do a controller because I need to build partials, and I think it just makes sense to have a grouping there. So landlord. Lease users controller. Users controller. Okay, and then that should have made a view as well. So we can say lease user HTML ERV. We'll just put lease user here. And then in the builder, we can basically say in this show current tenants, if any, we should be able to just say this, if at lease dot users dot any, and we can do lease users dot any. What we're gonna do now is render lease users, and that should. Okay, so there we go. So that's now pulling this template here. And then there's a website called Boring Avatars, which is a really cool site. I have to subscribe to it now. Oh, interesting. Used to be free. I guess what is there? Some like UI avatar APIs, UI avatars. And this is probably going to be more placeholder stuff because I do want to support adding profile photos, but I don't want to deal with it right now. UI faces, AI generated. No, this is the complete opposite of what I do. Dice Bear. I've heard of Dice Bear. HTTP. Yeah, see, this is nice. Just don't know which one to use. Styles. Oh, cool. Avatar is neutral. Ooh, I'm gonna open that one because that one looks nice. Glass is nice too. That's pretty cool. Could just do the initials. thumbs. Thumbs is similar to boring avatars. Wow. I'm going to do this one. If I do this and render that. Oh, massive. Okay, avatar. Build this component. I want to use the spacing for it. Oh, we're gonna actually have to. I gotta run bin dev because I do ES build, so it has to compile the SCSS. Yeah, so that's not at all what I wanted. I don't think we have like a size though. We do have that. No, it's not on the root. Where's our root? There it is. So get spacing. We could probably do some kind of sizing like that. Sure. So yeah, we say width is size medium. Yes, that looks good. Height size medium as well. 50%. I actually want that. Medium. Yeah. Yeah, something like that. Okay. I'm gonna just look at some of these ones just to see what I'm missing out on. These are cool too. That's pretty neat. And then yeah, these ones are actually pretty cool too. Yeah. I'll leave Dice Bear's link in the description. But yeah, Dice Bear is really cool. I'll also leave boring avatars as well if you're interested. There's a ton of them out there, but this is cool to kind of prototype and get stuff up. But yeah, I'm gonna go with thumbs. Works, it's fine. So it looks like we have to add like a seed on it, so we can do seed. And then yeah, it already knows what I'm going for here. Name. And then it's the seed, so it'll be the same image every time. And so yeah, so we'll do a it's just not nicely here. Oh my goodness. I thought I had an editor config. Do I just not have it installed? Oh, I don't even have this installed. Oh. That explains a lot of it. There we go. Editor config is a really cool extension on VS Code. Basically, it lets you just have your editor styling as a like a TOML file, I think is what it's called. And then your VS Code settings will map to that, as well as I think there's other support for other editors and stuff like that too. So yeah, no, really cool. So yeah, we're gonna do a div. Ultimately, this would be a cluster because we're gonna do that. It's actually exactly what we're gonna do. So we'll just do another div. Actually, I don't think we need to do a div here. We need to do another h4 or something. Yeah, so that looks nice. And then a p tag. I want it left aligned, so I don't really want that. Yeah, I mean, this looks pretty good. From what I can see, this is actually pretty nice. And then we obviously want this to be in the kind of a card as well. And this is where it's kind of shitty because we don't want that though. So if we do this, it's still, oh, is that just the card? Dot card. It's not displaying flags, so it makes me think it's the cluster. But mind you, the width I think on it is, no, yeah, this is weird. I mean, the cluster is definitely flex. If I do that, sort of that. However, doesn't really say it's gonna take up the parent as much space as it needs to. So if I just did like some kind of maximum width or something on it, like 320, that'll do. So I would actually say we do this avatar card, and we just say max width 320, and we have a width thing. I thought we did. Never mind. Photo width, slide in with spacing. Okay. This is unique to just the avatar components, so I'm gonna just propose that I leave it there. So if I do, yeah, now if I say avatar card, yeah, it's gonna be there. And I could make this like a modifier on the card, so it's like card avatar, but I don't think that's super descriptive, so I'm just gonna keep it separate. The other thing that we need to add is is a ability to edit, delete. We're gonna go to fonts.google. I'll do span edit. So there's that. We'll do outline. Maybe ghost. We'll do that. I think it needs to even be smaller. Pretty sure I have a size small icon. Yeah, I do. My size small icons are just so difficult to see. Did you use? What if I do 20? That's better. I think in general it's just a better icon size. But like this is also fine too, probably. I can expand the width as well. But yeah, we're gonna do that, and then delete as well. We'll have both of those. And this will need to have a cluster on it as well. something like that. Actually, these two items are going to have clusters like that. I think this is happening because the component width needs to be more, so like maybe 350. Yeah, might even do more, like we'll overshoot it here. Okay, wait, 350, but there needs to be space between. Cluster. Oh, it's just between. This align center actually doesn't do anything. That's the default. Okay, now it might be related to the width. Still not. Huh. Oh. No, I want... What's going on here? Is it because this isn't 100%? Oh. Oh yeah, it is. Flex 1. If I do this, that technically fixes it. But at what cost? But at what cost? If I do that. Okay. That looks a lot better. I like that. I get down with that. I even say card padded small. You can give it a bit more tighter in there. Yeah. So these are the current tenants that are on the lease. I don't know, why would we edit it though? I don't want to give the ability to edit. So just delete, which means we could probably bring this back down to like, yeah, we could actually probably bring this to 250. 300? Yeah, that's better. The next thing is obviously if somebody has like a really long email, it'll cut off and we want to add some kind of like overflow catch. Stuff like that. So this button would ultimately be calling the Rails controller to remove it from the lease. And then using Turbo, then I suppose, is what we would do to delete it from the page. Similarly, with searching a tenant, adding a tenant as well, we would search, select the tenant, and then, yeah, search, select the tenant, use Turbo to append him to the list once that operation's been done. That's likely what we would end up doing there. So that's fine. So I'm pretty happy with this. I'm not gonna wire up deleting anybody yet. So I want to make sure this is good. But what we can test is we can get searching for a tenant. And this one's gonna be interesting because what I ended up doing was I used Claude Code to help with this piece, but the idea was basically where is it? Oh no, it was in leases controller. In the builder, I grabbed available tenants, and this is basically tenants from the application and tenants from other leases that have been existing tenants for this team, and that's basically who I'd pull. Otherwise, it's more of like an invite to the Rentijoy. And so we'd have to handle the cases where there isn't a user available. So the kind of flow that I've seen is like, okay, if you type like, if you search for a tenant or you enter in like an email or something, I might do the email route, and there isn't any options. One of the options that would show up in that like drop down list would be adding a new user. But we'll think about it. Sorry if you can hear anything in the background. There's my sink. I don't know what it is, but it pops. It's kind of annoying, but it is what it is. So what we want to do, we have about an hour left. Let's start building the search for a tenant. Or we have this working where you can create a new lease for a user. That lease would then have that user tied to it. So if I go to the builder, rather, then builder 3, yeah, it's right here. So that has the tenant. We need the ability to add a new tenant, and we could do by email and just keep it simple. And like, you know what, there isn't any kind of like searching or anything like that. We could show recent applicants to be able to like say like, oh, here's a recent applicant that's available that you've had come through your funnel. I actually might scrap that feature because it's just like try to keep scope tight. But so I'm gonna go ahead and just say builder. I'm just gonna go ahead and get rid of that feature, recent applicants. I think it's a good idea. I just don't think it's worth the effort right now, as opposed to just add search for a tenant by email. Let's just say enter an email. Enter an email address, and then email address. The basic idea here is actually, if we say we do this, oops, class cluster, yep. So we do this, and then we're going to say button, maybe not search, but add. Yeah, I have to perfect that still. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the cluster, the side-by-side input and button, and we'll just do that instead. Whatever, it's fine. I will add a spacer though. Button large, sure. So That's the idea here. We can enter the email address, add the tenant, which is circumventing the applications flow, and it's just adding a tenant. So the idea is basically if you have existing tenants and you're going to come from a other property management platform, or you already have, you know, a leases assigned and everything and all that stuff, you can still come to Rentijoy. You can build your leases, you can add your tenants already, and they'll get invited to the platform. You just have to kind of fill in some of this information here, like if it's a fixed term, month to month, or periodic, the duration, how much rent is being charged, etc. And there's a chance that people just don't use it for leases. Like there's a chance they might just use it for applications. There is property managers out there that and landlords that just use multiple tools. Ideally, I want to try to make it just one tool, and you know, it's kind of the main area where people go to pay their rent, book amenities, for, you know, like condominium, or not condominium, but apartment buildings, and stuff like that. So there's definitely some more things to add over time, but like in terms of shipping and launching, like it's just gonna be kind of bare basics of like a property management software, and then we're gonna build on top of it. Just keep adding, do some marketing and everything as well. That's important. And I'm not the best at marketing. Actually, I'll be honest, I don't know anything about marketing, but so I'll be learning how to do that more. And it'll be fun. Okay, so this here will be lease users controller. We'll have a create. And you know, we could technically say like we could make this a component form. I'm not going to do that right now though. We'll just get it working. I'll basically say, okay, we got resources, landlord leases. If I do this, then technically in the routes, if I'm not mistaken, I just resize this. In the routes, this should basically give me the lease users underneath. Yeah, right here. So lease, landlord leases, landlord lease ID, lease users, and there's the create. Landlord lease lease users. That's kind of funny name, but so that'll allow me to basically know what lease it's under, so I don't have to pass it as like a hidden field. This is technically already in a form though, and that's kind of the frustrating thing. So yeah, this is already in a form. There is nested attributes that we could use in Rails. There is stimulus that we can create a controller that'll basically call the API. We could divvy up this and say this tenants piece is separate from all of this information, and just have this be its own separate form that just interacts with the lease users. I'm tempted to do that option because lease users and lease information, like, yes, these are connected, but they're relational. So like lease type, this is directly editing the lease. This is not directly editing the lease. This is like establishing a foreign key relationship with the lease. So I'm tempted on just separating the form fors and making a different form for just interacting with our lease users, and like passing in the lease ID as like the URL. And we'll do that probably. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of the split screen, so we have a little bit more screen real estate, and to make sure that the code is somewhat visible for people. All right. So yeah, these are technically. So we're gonna have to do some rejigging here. I'm gonna copy this piece here, and I'm gonna do that, and I'm just gonna do this. Okay. Now we have to get the other end into the right spot. So this end here is for the form for. I don't. Yeah, there we go. So this lines up with that. So now if I do this, this looks fine, but now the actual spacer that we have here needs to go on the class. Claude tried to do tailwind again. Silly LLM. Okay, so now these are technically two split forms. So this would be where the form starts, and then this card is its own thing, which is what we want. Because now we can take this and we can say form for. We don't want to do that. Form. I don't even know what's the. I can't remember what the generic form in Rails is. There's just form width. Form width URL. Yeah, this is exactly what I want. Model false. Yeah, there's no model. Yeah, this is what we want. Okay, so I'm going to take this here. So we're going to say form width URL landlord lease landlord lease users path at lease, because we need to pass in that method. And then yeah, spacer MD. We'll do that. We'll do the end tag there. And then technically this button here would become actually, you know what? I'm thinking about this wrong. The only thing that's actually a form here is this guy down here. That's the only thing that's actually a form. So we can do form width down here instead. Lease users path. Yep. We'll add that end tag there. Then we can add this here. Okay. All right. And then we need that spacer to just go in the class. Plot is, again, assuming I have Tailwind, because I don't. So there we go. But now we have access to the F helper. We can say f.label email, and then f.email field email. F.submit. We'll say class. Yep. Do add tenant, and that should do the same thing that we want here. And this isn't working, assuming because of that. There we go. All right. Oh, this doesn't work. Okay. We can just do a regular button then. That's fine. Oops. Seriously. Button class that. I would just say type is submit. That'll submit the form. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So now if I do lease users controller, the other thing that we're gonna have to do is this collection here needs to be wrapped with this here needs to be wrapped with a turbo frame tag. This is happening basically, it's looping through and it's like grabbing this partial and it's putting it in this page. And so if we say, I don't know, turbo frame tag DOM ID lease tenants, what does that do? I am somewhat not accustomed to turbo as much as I'd like to be. So I'm still kind of ramping up. Okay, so this just does tenants lease 3. So when we do the turbo action on the server side, we would use that same helper to do that. What if I do this and just say at lease users? What does that do? It doesn't like that. Okay, fair enough. And I might be more proper in like the naming here. And I'll actually call it lease users because that's technically what they are. Lease users for lease 3. Yeah. Okay. So this is basically where we need to basically say, I'll just do a debug. Let's do a debugger here for now. We're not doing any CSS stuff, so we can just run the Rails server. Okay, this should be hitting, let me check the form actually. Landlord leases 3 lease users, that's what we want to hit. And there's the debugger that I hit. So okay, we're routing to the right controller. Got that information there. So if we do this and say, I don't know, or at least, sure. Actually, what I want to say is include with team, because what I actually want to do is I want to scope it to the teams so that we can't find any leases that are not on our team. There is a larger authorization permissions based piece that I have yet to actually do that I know it's probably a pain in the ass to add it in after the fact, but I am going to add it in after the fact. And that is my shame to bear. So, but yeah, I will add it in. But for right now, a lot of this stuff is just like scoped down to the team anyway. And I don't really know like how much, like for instance, on the teams themselves, like tenants, we have different roles. I do have roles established. I need to be better about it, like in the application flow. I don't think I'm setting them up as a tenant, but I need to be, because the tenant dashboard is going to be different. Like they don't have properties, don't have applications, etc. Rentijoy though is like you can do that. You can add a property. You can become a landlord on the platform pretty easily. That's the intention, because there's people that are tenants that totally become landlords in the future, and they might, want to have an easier switch over. The interesting thing though is like it is possible for you to be a landlord and a tenant at the same time. So I'm trying to figure that out as I get closer to building out the tenant dashboard more. And that'll happen once we get closer to like payments and stuff like that. But just, yeah, there's a piece that I'm still missing in terms of authorization. I've asked ChatGPT and like Claude Code to roast my project and like my code, and one of the key things that it pointed out was to error handle more. So I was like, yeah, it's fair call out. So there's probably some things I have to come in and clean up. I'm not a top tier like programmer by any means. So like if you're watching to kind of learn content or learn how to program or anything, this is not the place for that. I'm happy to kind of chat about code and everything and like share ideas, but I'm very interested in like the business side of, and just, this is the means of building a product for a potential business. And I definitely code more on that side of the spectrum rather than, I do program, I do software development as a career, as a profession. Like that's what I do as a job outside of Rentijoy. But yeah, so it's definitely something that, I wouldn't look up to me as like follow these patterns in your code base. I would not do that. Anyway, I'm dogging on myself a little bit too much, but so what we need to do, we need to find the current lease, okay? And we'll just say if there is a lease, so we'll say lease present. Actually, what we could probably say is redirect. No. Redirect to, I don't know, leases path. Well, I should say it's before action. Still waiting for my live access on YouTube to be open so I can start live streaming. But I'm curious if anyone watching, how do you use AI in your workflow? I personally use it for like Claude Code. I'll use it. I don't do too much of like the vibe coding is what people call it. I'm less excited about the vibe coding aspect because I found it difficult when I tried it. I found it really difficult when I tried to do the vibe coding piece because I'd prompt it, and maybe this is where it's like it's a whole different skill, right? Like it's something that you need to learn how to do. And as like a dev who's been doing it for I don't know how long time. I've been programming ever since I was 12. I've gotten accustomed to a specific way of building a program, building a website or a game or whatever, right? Like, where I'm kind of really in the code and I'm doing it. And vibe coding just felt like a whole different thing. Like it just, I couldn't keep up with the pace that it was producing the code. And I felt like I was in like a mode of writing versus reading. And I felt myself reading code more, but also switching to write code. And the different modes there it was personally just kind of difficult for me. But I'm curious on how other people are leveraging it. I love the Super Maven like auto completion. I haven't used Copilot that much. I used it like early when it first came out, and I found it more distracting than actually helpful at the start. But now I love my auto completions that I get from it. I need to be better at like using them. But and Cloud Code has helped with some things as well. I find it's better with like smaller tasks than giving it like large tasks. So yeah, anyway, figured I'd throw that prompt out there in case anyone's watching and interested in that kind of space. So yeah, I'm gonna say permanent email. I think there's actually a new way to do this in Rails 8, like expect or something, or it's like expect lease user email, something like that. Let me see. Yeah, all right. That's pretty cool. Should try that. Although this doesn't really follow a conventional flow here. Yeah, actually this is expect email. All right, actually this isn't gonna do what I want it to do. We're gonna get the email, so we have to find the user by the email. So user find by email. And then or yeah. You might want to add a form for this so that I can add better validation. Yeah, to do that. Add tenant form. Let's copy one of these. And this will be a add tenant form. And then we'll have an email there. If the tenant doesn't exist, this is where we're getting into the invite flow again, as I mentioned earlier. Do we ask for their name from the landlord? Do we just ask for their email and let the person enter in their name when they get invited? I think we'll probably just end up doing that. We'll just ask for their email. So yeah, devise has an invitation invitable, it's called, right? Something like that. Oh, it's a different gem. Where you can invite somebody and then they get invited and then they can set their password, etc. that way. Yeah, this is interesting. Say we have this invitation view here. First name, last name, role. Ooh. Interesting. And it's just like creating the other fields. question is does it create a user when you invite? Or does it just store it in like some token and then it creates the user once they accept the invite? Because I kind of wanted to create the user after being invited. Could also just build this. Like, it probably wouldn't take that long. You just basically generate an invite token, tie that token in their session when they're signing up. Don't let them change their email. Make them create an account. And then they enter in their information and then they're in. So like once we delete, if we don't have an account for an email, it would create an anonymous account with that email. They'll be set as like invited state or whatever. We'll send the email. Here's your link to sign up. You know, oh, you've been invited by so-and-so to join the lease or whatever. Blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, then after that, they just create an account. And then on the tenant side, you basically just drop them into like what they need to do. So like a tenant, once you're first there, like you need to possibly set up your payment information, you need to possibly sign some lease documents, you know, all that kind of stuff. And so we'll have like a dashboard on the tenant side to just show kind of like what's your next step that you need to do for your lease. So I'm gonna backseat this here for now, put this on the back burner, and we'll probably just end up building something ourselves there. I think it'll be fine. Shouldn't be too hard. I can't remember. I just went on a tangent there. I can't remember. Add tenant form. This is what was going to handle the logic of whether we were going to just add the tenant or create the new user. I think that was the idea. But I'm recognizing that that might not be what we want to do. Or we do the logic in the controller. So the form. Yeah, okay. We'll do it in the form. I try to keep forms simple and not like have too many side effects, but can't always get what we want. So we'll do email. It's going to be given the user. Should just, yeah, so this is like the first form where it's like, okay, this isn't in the context of the user. This is in the context of potentially making a new user. Yeah. Okay. Making decent progress, I'd say. So what we want to do is, yeah, we want to add validators. Validates, yeah, I just want the email to be valid or there. And then the basic idea here we'll do that so that we can basically set that up. Lease user. So, okay, yeah. If user or find lookup user email. If lookup user is nil, then we could add an error and then check for that error and then handle it in the controller. But what we actually want to do here is set up lease user. And we can add more properties on this. So I want the lease as well. I need the lease like that. So set up the lease user. Basically, this would do this. If there's no user, we would create a new guest user account, which we can see that in the application flow controller, where basically we just need to do this again. And so this won't be available in the controller or in the form. So we have to do this. Could make a helper though, I guess. I don't know. Rule of 3. The only difference here is this wouldn't be, this would actually be the email. And then we would just set them a password, whatever, like a random hex password. But they are anonymous. Okay. So basically, if the user is nil, we need to set up a lease user. Else, we need to just add them to the lease. Here's an important detail. We add them to the lease. We're assuming that they just are a part of that lease. Do we have to add in some kind of ability to accept it so there's an invite to a lease no matter what? I think that that's probably the better flow to do. Invite flow for leases. Which is kind of what we're doing, but I'm talking about like existing accounts. So setting up a new lease and all that, creating a guest user and then having them create an account, that's fine. Like that's an invite flow. They'll know that they're coming in for a lease, yada yada. I'm talking for existing users. Probably want to do some kind of like invite flow. So if I called Scallydrum, I do this. So if we have like a lease, and is there a dark mode? Yes. All right. So if I have a lease, oops. Maybe let's say I have some other things like maybe users, teams is another one, right? There's some kind of like invite mechanisms that need to be here. So we can say like invitable. And then they're just there. So basically there could be a lease invitable, a users invitable, team invitable. And then the different routes that handle it. It all would stay in the same table. So these are actually called polymorphic associations in Rails. And these are good where I would say probably use sparingly, but basically here it's like employees can have pictures as well as can products. And so you have basically we would have invites and it would be an invitable type and an invitable ID. And then on the controller side, we would just handle team invites. We would handle user invites, etc., lease invites. So I think we'll do that. In terms of like what would be on the invites table, we need an invitation token. Ideally, who created it, and then expiration, possibly. accepted at. Let's just get going. Invites. Now, I don't know how to do this in the generator. Belongs to imageable polymorphic through. Oh. Oh, that's cool. All right, we can just do a t dot references imageable or belongs to. Okay. Yeah, so this is the big thing here with polymorphic is the class names are stored in the database. And so if you change a class name and you change your business logic and the database is still processing that older class name, not good, right? Think about background jobs. That's probably another one that's like can really bite you in the butt with polymorphic types. So sparingly is my recommendation. So I will say token expires at daytime. Accepted at daytime. We'll do that. And then the other one that we want to add is t dot belongs to invitable polymorphic true. And then yeah, actually belongs to a user, or I don't know what the difference is of references. No, I don't want polymorphic there. User index true. So inviter is a good one. Invitee optional true. Okay. That's probably good enough. Spelling mistake there. I don't know. Yeah, is class name even a thing here? Oops. I think the LLM thinks I'm in a model. Node key optional. Oh, actually it's null. That's why. There. Nailed it. So belongs to invitable, belongs to an inviter, belongs to an invitee. Sure. No. Validates token, validates inviter, validates invitable. All right. So one of the things that we'll do here is default or generating invite token Rails. X is probably fine. Oh, there is that. Oh, yes. There's this. How does this even work? Yeah, this came out in like, yeah, this came from Rails 7, if I'm not mistaken. Generates token. So if I just say, maybe we don't need that token in the database then. I don't want it to be. Less stuff you have to store. I'm just gonna get rid of it. We can say, yeah, generates token for invitable. Oh. Expires in. I don't know. Sure. Do that. And then you find the user by that token. Oh. Hmm. Okay, so if we have this, then we don't need that. Expires at, right? The token expires. Yeah, we don't need the expires at either. We do need the use though. We do need that because we'd be finding it by the invite because we're going to be creating it for the invite. And so we basically be able to say, oh, this has already been used. Don't need to use it again. So I'll migrate that again. And what I like to do in these kind of cases, I'll just go and, test this out. So I'll go ahead and create a lease, or I get a lease. Just say maybe the last one, database. And then we can just say the invite, say invite dot new. And then yeah, it's invitable is the lease. Inviter, we'll say it's the first user. Invitee, we'll say user.last. So there's that. Generate token for invitable. There's the token there. Then if I do find by token for invitable, I do this. Oops. Why does that not work? Oh, because we have to do this maybe? Oh, we need to definitely invitable. Doesn't even work. Oh, because we didn't save it in the database, so that's why. Invite expires at? Oh. Okay, wait, hold on. Let's do this. Let's get rid of that. We don't need that. Okay, wait. Invite. Let's go back. Invite new. Invite save. Define Mofmeth token. Oh, let's see. Validators. Oh, God. Save. Oh! Nothing's working. Riddled with typos. Okay, there we go. So now the invite exists. So if we say generate for invitable, oops, invitable, there's our token. And this is stateless because this is JWT. If I say find by token for invitable, and we do this, there we go. If I did like E here, we wouldn't be able to find it. And this expires after a week. So if a week went past, we wouldn't be able to find it. So this is really cool. So yeah, there we go. So we have tokens now generating, and we're able to tie it to a lease as well. So we can see the invitable type is a lease, and we see the invitable ID is the ID of 3. So if I do L dot invitable, that's interesting. Or inv dot invitable, sorry. You can see it pulls up the lease model. So that's where we would have the list of, we'd have a controller that would handle lease invites. And so that's what we'll end up doing. Dun, 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 dun. This token though is more, actually, what am I doing here? This token, okay, so we do the token for the invite, for the invitable. If there's an existing user, it would have a token, but we would still just pull all of the invitations that they have for leases where they're the invitee. They wouldn't necessarily need the token to accept it or reject it. So when they accept it, or if they don't accept it and just delete it, we just delete the invite from the database. And that's it. So that's pretty good. So, okay. So if the lease is nil, we redirect the lease path. That's fine. We create a user. We basically want to say if the user is nil, then we need to just create the user as a guest user at that point, or send an invitation. But we need a user to send the invitation. So we need the guest user, then we need a user. And that's where the invitable token comes into play, because if they have that token, we can then say that they basically are valid and they can go and set a password for their account, add the first name, last name, stuff like that. Only if they're anonymous. They don't need to do this flow for existing accounts. So let's do that. So yeah, if user's nil, then I don't know, we were doing this in the form, but we were going to do it. And yeah, so this is where we're actually going to do this stuff. So that does mean in the lease users controller, or the leases controller in the builder, we need to do the add tenant form. And we'll just do that for now. And that'll give us access to then do that here. Add tenant form, like so, but actually doing that. Okay. So we have that. And the setup that we want. So when we save, we're going to look up the user. We're going to find if there isn't a user, then we set up a lease user. And what this is basically going to do is going to create a guest user. Okay. And then we're going to create a lease user on that lease. User, guest user. And then we're going to save it. And if all goes well there, then we're going to return the guest user. And I think we're already skipping confirmation. Yeah. So get the guest user, we're just going to return the guest user. Save. And then we do that. So if we just say guest user, This is kind of misleading. So if the lookup user doesn't exist, then we'll actually just say create guest user. Guest user, and then set up lease user, guest user. User. Should we just type it like that? Okay. Right. So the next kind of flow is like, do we send an invite for a lease user or do we send an invite for the lease? I think we probably need to just send an invite for the lease user. Or we just need to send an invite for the user, because technically they just need to sign up for an account. And that's it. And then the rest is kind of just, we'll drop them where they need to be. So if they only have one lease at this time, when they're invited, then their only dashboard will be that lease. So so create a guest user, set up a lease user, and then we'll invite, or we'll say user.invite or something like that. So we can say user, say class self invite email, sure, do role, invite.new, invitable is self, inviter is the current user, and I actually might say email role inviter, like that. Say current dot, or we'll say inviter. Should we just do this? Email invite dot send invitation email, which is using the mailer, which we haven't done any mailers yet. So I'm just going to say puts invitation and then generate token for invitable. That. Okay, and then if I say user.invite email role inviter, like that. User. Present. Okay. Right. So if the user that we looked up is nil, then we're going to create a guest user. We're going to set up them as a lease user, and we're going to basically invite them to create an account. And basically they'll have the account. Actually, we already have the guest user, so we probably don't need to do this. I think about it. What we should do is the role here should be a tenant. But this isn't creating an account. This is just creating a new invite. under the email. Sorry, I just hit my microphone. So that's actually good. I think that'll be fine. Yeah, that'll be good. So you get an invite, you'll receive that invite in your email. Once we build that out, we have to build it out still. Let me track this here as I'm building this stuff out. Invitation flow. So the email mailer or mailer for invitations, it will just be invitations for creating an account. I don't think we'll do like special invitations for just like leases or properties or whatever, like yada yada yada. I think we'll just do invitations for accounts. I want to try to get this working, and then I think we're going to call it there. So let's add to the builder. We actually have to change the form now because the form is actually for a model. And so now we're able to do this instead. And so there we go. So I'm going to test with a user that does not exist. So it does not exist. Rentijoy.com. I'm going to check and see what happened. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Oh, because we didn't do anything with this. So we have to do this. Redirect. This is where we'll actually do some like turbo stream stuff because we need to like add them here. And we need to add them as like an invited user. And so one thing that we should probably do actually is if we did make this like a method on the user itself. So if I did user.rb instead of doing the class method, if we just did this and then created the invite, then we can basically set the account. So we don't need the user role. We don't need that. Actually, probably don't need the role either. We just need the inviter because this would come from self.email. I believe you can even say email. That might actually work. However, what we want to say is, yeah, we want to add, so we need to add some properties to give some more clarity to what's happening. So Rails team migration, add invite, properties to users. Sure. Add column. So one of the things to actually now change is like, okay, we're doing this whole polymorphic thing, but if we're only wanting it to be users, then we probably don't actually need to be polymorphic anymore. Yeah, so just do that. Add columns users. Not like a Boolean. There we go. All right. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to roll back the invites because I'm going to say belongs to a user. Or we have invitee. Inviter, invitee. Accept that. Okay. Now if I do Rails DB migrate. I think this is fine. Just have that on the user. But what we'll say now is has many invites. Sorry about that. Forgot to mute that. Invites. I need this to be. I need it to say that it's like the invitee. That's the name of the column. Yeah. The Rails guide might not be what I want here. Do I dare go in here? Collections. Okay, there's scopes. Extensions. Well, that's cool. Oh. Huh. I didn't know you could do that. There's so many use cases that I could have done that for in the past. Foreign key. So the foreign key here is, yeah, invitee ID. And then inverse of invitee. Not quite sure what the inverse of is all about. Specify the name of the belongs to associate on the associated object that is the inverse of the has many. Oh, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Because we have that on here, we have the class name. Yeah, all right. So that has just got rid of all of that there. And then we don't have a new path for when the form is not valid. So we might have to actually make this its own thing, which I think is fine. Okay, so we're not doing that anymore, but we're going to be doing guest user dot invite inviter will be user, and that should do the following: creates the invite, but it also sets the user there and invited by. And we only want this to happen if the invite was able to get created. And we should probably just explode if that doesn't work, because we want that to work. Okay. Does not exist at rentijoy.com. Cannot find. Okay, so we're running into our first error. Where's my started post? At right here, yeah. Or for cannot find lease without an ID. Oh, interesting. So I just can't. Really? Right here? Oh, because it's not that, it's something stupid like lease ID or whatever, landlord lease ID, I think is the name of the parameter. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's so bad. Does not exist at rentijoy.com. Please work. Hey, that's progress. So now, okay, so the invite doesn't need this anymore. It doesn't need this. It does not need that. It does need it does need an invitee though. You need to have an invitee to actually do it. Okay, so that probably created the user. It did. So now it does exist. We don't want it to exist anymore. So we have to go and delete that user. Actually, what was it? What was the idea of it? I don't know. Find by email does not exist at rentjoy.com. Destroy. Uh-oh. Oh, the roles. It created the tenant role. That was awesome. All right, cool. I'll destroy it though. No, again? It's because I have to reload it. I don't know what foreign key. Foreign key constraint failed. Invalid foreign key. But what? Which one? User roles. Huh. All right. I don't have the brain energy. All right, so this, hey, this is working. So the next thing would be we'd add like a check in the parcel to clearly say that this is an invited account. They haven't accepted it yet. But yeah, I mean that's working. Maybe it's that's failing then. That's actually probably what it was. I'm devoted. Determined to get that working. If I do lease users. Leases? Oh. Oh. All right, lease. Sorry. Lease users depend to destroy. Leases. No, I don't want that. Is this if the user? Yeah, no, I don't want that. Okay, let's do this again. So now if I do leases, it'll show me the lease that I have. Lease users. We prevail. So now the user should be gone. Out of my face. Not exist. It still did not work. Oh, because... Sorry. I'm silly. Yeah, so this is all we care about. I'm gonna have to go back and do all this again. Lease users, destroy all. Oh wait, that worked? Oh no, it's a new ID now. Destroy all. User role. Destroy. Does not exist. Oh. Just losing my mind here. Give that a try. Okay, it failed, but that's progress because we have insert into the users. We should have an invite record too. Okay, no, it didn't. Dang it. The invite failed to be made then? Hmm. Hmm. Oh, this is the. All right, let's explode this. And we'll go back to the builder and see. What? Now it works? Okay. That was weird. We have anything in the inputs? No, we don't. So that's not at all what we want. Weird why that worked. Unless it just didn't destroy the user properly. No. We just run out of music? Okay. this here. Means that this isn't saving. Oh, it's probably this. No. They're passing an email. Oh, but the name of it's probably different now. Yeah. Yes. We're so close. I can feel it. Feel it in my bones. Does not exist. Email. Oh, all right. That does work. Okay. So I just don't know what it's failing at then. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. If I do this, I can see it though. Let's see what's going on. Look at the form. Errors. No errors. It's valid. Unless we just need to return true. Something like that. That might be what it is. We're trying to invite them. This one's tricky. I have no idea what that was all about. Let's reset. What is going on here? How do I get frequency errors? I'm trying to humanize the frequency on the show page. Oh. Oh, is this working? Download lease path. Now we want to go to... We want to go to the builder. We don't want to be here. Yeah, I'm doing this wrong. Can't type. So we want to go to the builder. Okay, so now we have debuggers. Continue. Tenant added successfully. Awesome. And then, am I just missing the loggings that we have set up? Yeah, we don't even, it's not even working. Invite, send invitational email. Invite.save. I don't think this is working. It's like this whole thing is getting it's not even inviting anybody. Even though we're calling it right here. We call guest user.invite. It doesn't even do anything. It's so weird. All right. Well, it is we're about hour 48 minutes in. I'm gonna add this to something to pick up. Add to our bugs that we have to fix. These keep adding up, and that's always an interesting one. Invite flow. We'll say when adding a tenant that does not exist, the invitation does not get created. Sad face. There's that. But overall, I think we made good progress. We descoped some things about searching for users. I think we can add this in at some point in the future, but I think the email flow is fine. If we have an existing account, it's not going to send an invite necessarily, but we'll have some kind of mechanism to say yes or no in that form. But otherwise, I think this is a good start. We have touch with the UI as well. I think that'll probably be something else we should add in our to-dos. Touch up UI for lease builder tenants form. And something we could do, we didn't wire up the turbo stuff as well, so we need to wire up the turbo stuff. Turbo frames for the tenants form. And we also need to wire up the delete. From the lease. And yeah, I think that should be good. So something we might do as like a stretch goal kind of is make the tenant form a partial under lease users. That's a stretch. So yeah, I think for the next time I'm streaming, recording. The next time I actually might be streaming because tomorrow I will have access to YouTube Live. So if you are interested in catching me streaming live and being able to watch the VODs after, then totally feel free to subscribe, comment any questions you have at all. And yeah, it's been awesome coding. I happy with getting this tenant stuff working, getting some of the foundational stuff for our invitations working. And yeah, I'm excited to continue building onto this in the coming weeks. I do have family coming tomorrow and all throughout next week, so I might be a little bit on the lacking side in terms of making content and doing some videos, but I'm excited. And thanks for chilling again, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend because it is a Friday here today in Canada. And yeah, take care.